tell me why. Right when I was starting to warm up to Colby Covington, right when I was actually starting to like this guy, now this guy has to be one of the biggest freaking losers in the UFC right now. Now this dude just keeps getting cooked left and right, passed around like a blunt, getting blacked back to back to back, non-consecutively. Usman the second time. Well, I wanted that to happen. Pause. Not gay like that. And then Leon, and then Buckley. And I wanted him to beat Leon. I was wanting him to finally become the undisputed champion off of Leon Rocky Edwards. And then he shit the bed, had one of the worst career performances ever, put the fans to sleep. And this is the same guy who's knocked on so many other fighters for being boring, and then he ended up being boring against Leon. I was hoping, like, okay, he could have at least one last run in him. Now, I was not expecting anything from him against Joaquin Buckley. I didn't pick him to beat Joaquin Buckley. I picked Buckley by third round TKO, so I was on the money with that prediction. It was a doctor stoppage, but it was in the third round, so I called the round and the method. So what a way to close out the year, huh? To end the year on a correct prediction and calling the round and the method. Because these last few years, I've always gotten like the last fight of the year or like the last pay-per-view of the year incorrect. Although this wasn't a pay-per-view, still. Usually I'm wrong, but I closed out the year picking Pantoja. I was right about that, and I was right about Buckley. But last year I picked Colby. Bad pick on my part. I couldn't have predicted he'd be extremely washed against Leon. Leon was the more logical pick, but I picked Colby anyway. And yeah, he loses badly. But he loses worse in this fight. He goes out completely sad against Numansa. And I saw this coming, but I had hope. I had hope that Colby would be able to turn things around. I had hope that maybe Colby Covington could turn back the clock. But he had absolutely nothing for Joaquin Buckley. Nothing. I mean, the guy just looked completely washed up. This was not the same Colby Covington that we've seen in 2018, 2019 on the come up. This is a completely different man. Colby Covington is an absolute shell of himself. His wrestling has declined. He's much physically weaker. He's not as comfortable in the striking as he used to be. Like, this guy went from evolving in his striking from the Damian Maia fight, getting outboxed by Maia, to then outstriking RDA, outstriking Lawler, kind of outstriking Usman in that first fight before getting stopped, to now his striking regressing. And now he's like afraid to commit in exchanges, doesn't have that same level of grit that he used to have. And I mean, this guy's scar tissue just gets worse and worse every fight, because it doesn't take a lot to make Colby bleed. But like, Colby got cut up in like the first exchange in round 1 against Buckley. Like, this guy was leaking all over in round 1. I'm like, yeah, it's over. This guy is cooked. He's already bloodied up. He's getting outstruck. He can't get a takedown. He got dropped late round 1, saved by the bell, like the second Usman fight. But then, unlike the last fight he had with Usman, getting knocked down didn't wake him up and make him fight better. Because when he got dropped by Usman, he got up and fought hard in the last 3 rounds. I mean, I thought Usman actually won rounds 1, 2, and 3. And 5 against Colby. He definitely didn't lose round 3 to Colby Covington, because, I mean, Colby did nothing. I watched the second Usman fight before the Buckley fight, a few hours before the Buckley fight. Apart from that late flurry and then getting Usman's back and dragging him on his hands and knees, which was barely a takedown, he really did nothing. So he lost to Usman 4-1. But coming off getting dropped by Buckley, he couldn't recover. He couldn't fight any better. It just, yeah, he had nothing for him. And even when he was able to get Joaquin Buckley to the ground, he wasn't able to keep him down. Buckley was able to get up easily, and Buckley was able to easily shut Colby off every time Colby tried to wrestle. And then, yeah, Colby would get a few takedowns, but then other takedowns he'd attempt, he'd like end up on bottom. Like Buckley would just throw him to the ground. It was just sad, pathetic to watch. And then going into round 2 or round 3, that female doctor like warned him like, yo, if this cut gets any worse, we're stopping that fight, Colby. And once I heard that, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be wraps. They're gonna stop the fight because I knew Colby Covington was gonna continually get hit in that same spot, and that cut was gonna continue to leak, and it just wasn't gonna get any better from there. And then yeah, the fight ended up being paused by the ref. He got the doctor to check it out, and the doctor's like, yeah, he can't continue. I mean, the fight could have kept going, but even if the fight didn't get stopped, what difference would that have made? Like, Colby Covington was not winning that fight. It was not going to get any better. Colby Covington just would have got 50-45 if the fight didn't get stopped. And it's just sad, man, because Colby Covington used to be really talented. He used to be really good. Like, he had an insane pace he'd push in his fights, great volume, good chain wrestling, and he could take down anyone at will during his prime, except for Kamaru Usman. I mean, this guy was throwing Robbie Lawler around the octagon. I know Robbie Lawler was like past his prime, nearly 40 years old, but still, Robbie Lawler was known for strength, anti-wrestling, and Colby just took him down and wrestle-fucked him like he was nothing. Did the same thing to Tyrone Woodley, another guy who's shown good takedown defense throughout his career. I mean, maybe using Lawler and Woodley aren't really good examples, but still, you'd think he'd be able to take down someone like Buckley at will, but at this stage in his career, with his decline in physicality and wrestling, he wasn't able to do what the Colby of old could have done to Joaquin Buckley. And now we're seeing it's the changing of the guard in the welterweight division. Colby's time is beyond done. He shouldn't fight again after this crappy performance. And I don't blame him for ducking Ian Gary, because Ian Gary would have absolutely embarrassed him, humiliated him. Now, Joaquin Buckley, after this fight, he basically asked the crowd who do they want to see him beat up next. And he said whoever the crowd cheers for the loudest, he'll fight. So he mentioned Leon, didn't get a lot of cheers. Mentioned Usman, got the most cheers. Bilal got the second most cheers. So he said Usman it is. I don't want to see that fight because I'm a Usman fanboy. And I'm trying to see Usman get a win. But honestly, it probably doesn't matter who Usman fights next. He's probably losing his next fight no matter what. Whether they throw him to Machado or Jack Della or even Buckley himself, Usman will probably, continue his losing streak into like a 4-loss skid. So I just much rather see Buckley fight Leon Edwards because I care about Leon a lot less. And Leon Edwards needs an opponent for UFC London, and I know Ian Gary said he's not going to fight Leon if it's not in Dublin, Ireland. And Buckley is no stranger to doing quick turnarounds and being active. So, I mean, if Buckley wants a title shot, he might as well fight the number one contender and former champion Leon Edwards. And if he can beat Leon, then he's right there. He's going to be next in line to fight for the title against the winner of Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. And now Numansa is like, on a 6-fight win streak now? Like a win streak of 6 fights? Yeah, 6-fight win streak, 14 wins by knockout, 4 first-round finishes. Damn, like this guy's no joke. Buckley's no joke, and I mean, it's crazy the way this man was able to turn around his career. Ever since leaving the middleweight division, he was like 5-4 at middleweight. I don't think he's lost once in the welterweight division. Like, this guy is an absolute tank at welterweight. He's a problem at welterweight. Short, stocky, fast, powerful, great striker, great wrestler, well-rounded. He's a threat everywhere. Now, does he beat Leon Edwards if that fight happens? I give him more of a chance to beat Usman than I do Leon, just because I think Usman might be on the same boat as Colby Covington. Maybe not as bad as Colby, but at this point in Usman's career, it's a more winnable fight for Buckley than it would have been maybe a few years ago when Usman was like pound for pound number one. Leon's a harder fight because of his range and his technical striking, and I mean, Buckley could take him down. We've seen Bilal exploit the wrestling weakness in Leon, but I feel like Leon has pretty good takedown defense when he's not fighting a high level wrestler like Prime Usman, not the washed one in the trilogy, and Prime Bilal. I don't know if Buckley's takedowns will be as strong as an Usman or a Bilal Muhammad. And if it comes down to the striking, I mean, he could catch Leon, but Leon's pretty hard to finish, whether it be on the feet or the ground. So I might favor Leon to win that fight. But honestly, from here, I'd say reschedule the Buck versus the Cuck matchup. Ian Gary versus Joaquin Buckley, mid 2025. But I would say that the Leon fight, if we're going to fast track Buckley to a title shot, give him Leon, but preference wise, I'd rather see him fight Ian Gary. I feel like they got unfinished business. And that's another good test for Buckley in his career, too. Like I said, Colby Covington needs to get the hell out of the sport. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.